Are there any widows present? If so, this could be for you. Widowhood can be a grace. Elizabeth of Hungary, I believe, lost her good husband, and the Lord gave her these words, because she was also a mystic. Marriage does not exclude from heaven. Widowhood draws the soul closer to God, and then virginity merits the crown. Many see in the taking of a partner something out of order and miss the grace. Others see it for what it is, an invitation to go to the unum necessarium for which the soul is here, love and only love, without the human support. But most souls go through life with that human support. It is not always easier, actually. And by the way, a little parenthesis, those who think that that kind of situation would solve the shortage of priests have another thing coming. It is only going to open the doors, if that should ever happen, to unimaginable problems and situations that are right now at least out of reach. I close that parenthesis. Virginity merits the crown. Over the years, I've had a lot, and I mean a lot, to do with holy virgins, often in profound enclosure. And there one knows love. There one knows what it is to stamp each second to the full, and to go with desire to the beloved at the end. Which leads me to where I want to land. We have in the first reading these words which fall well on this end of the year. Last time we shall meet in 2019. When the fullness of time had come. When one is next to a soul about to move on, certain things get relegated very suddenly to a back burner. The priest knows within moments whether the soul before him has taken seriously during life the sacrament of reconciliation and therefore preparation or not. Often, by the time he's called, he's not able to get through. All one can do is pray for and leave it to the divine mercy. But even actually, when one can, one is sometimes disappointed that people actually in that situation don't realize how important those last moments are. If one compares the end of a soul that has not been aware with one that is, there are many things which startle the priest. Take the example of a great world figure, maybe a dictator, somebody who is used to having glory and honor and attention. That can lead to spiritual danger, and actually usually does. an element of participation precisely in the sin of Lucifer, independence and self-sufficiency, some form or other of profound pride. And so, over a time, the soul gets into mode, self-sufficiency, self-sufficiency. And when it comes to the last solicitation of divine grace, the habit is so profound that there is no more will left to change course, actually for all eternity. And that self-sufficiency can be its last interior word before its echo is heard 1 second later, forever. In some cultures, death is a great moment, hugely celebrated locally. In some Asiatic situations, I think it was traditionally the case in India, there was a tradition in noble families that the widow would throw herself on the pyre that was burning the corpse of her husband. In satanic circles, death is a great victory, and it's celebrated as such because they're going to join the one that they have served. We have, alas, the testimony of the last moments of the founder of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey. Somebody close to him was sitting next to him as he was petering out, expecting that it should be a great, huge triumph going to the company of the great king. This was a lady, and she reported, actually this is what happened. He came to, and he had seen something. He was seeing something at that very moment, and he was changing very quickly in his facial expressions. And he said this, "Oh my, there's something terribly, terribly wrong." And with that, he went into the arms of the one that he'd founded his church for. Yesterday, having received a text the previous night from a friend of mine whom offered I would go to before coming to this Mass to take Jesus to her, and it was a very cryptic text, one of those one-liners. It just said, "They're giving me a few weeks. I'd love to see you again." So, yesterday, I found myself in Dublin next to her. There. She was able actually, with a twinkle in her eye, to come out with the likes of this. "Wow, I got MS, I got cancer in my breast, cancer on my spine, cancer in my liver. But you know what? I feel quite okay." And on the conversation would go. And I told her how my mother was writing to me one time from Cardiff when I was enclosed, and she was quoting King Charles, because they were giving her all kinds of eulogies as she left the chapel to go to the north forever, praising her goodness and so on. And she was complaining to herself it was lasting too long, and she just said, which I quoted to my friend, "I'm an unconscionable time of dying." And so she calmly twinkled away and wanted also all the details prepared for a purely vertical lift-off. Nothing human, only a Christian funeral, where Jesus would be Lord. The last moment can be very different for some. As we tried to find the hospital in Rathgar, I passed by the place where I had lived in Rathgar as a student while studying in Milltown. It was the missionary centre. There it was, but it was no longer there, demolished and rebuilt in a modern style. And I thought to myself, there too death was discussed. We had one or two who had cancer and were dying back from the missions. But one time at table, I was talking to a young priest who was on a year sabbatical in his 40s. And he came out casually at table with this, as they would do among missionaries. It was down in Africa somewhere, and he had a phone call when he was acting as priest in the parish from the police. Please come to the centre of the village. There's going to be an execution. So he immediately got out of bed, and because it was a Catholic culture, he heard the confession of each of the 10 of them, young men, and he very quickly copped on they were all completely innocent. That it was probably something in which the police were in some way complicit, to do with drugs, I believe, and using these as scapegoats. And so he prepared them for their end. He turned away and heard this almighty foray of machine guns, so severe and massive and intense that one or two of the pillars was sawn in two, and there was blood all over the place. But they got there, safe and sound, washed in the blood of Christ, which only the Church can give. Which only the Church can give! Others want death, but for the wrong reason. It's now à la mode to go under one's own hand by shortcut. Do you know that 1 second after, that soul is shown all the pain left behind? And if a woman, all the children that she was going to bear. And do you think that in the normal state of events they can cheat in such a way as to get to heaven before they've outrun their course of time? As we begin one more year, let us pause. Ask ourselves, what is the quality of my use of time? Am I honest with myself? Do I know that actually I am damaging my time by too many things, now often virtue? I cannot love Jesus if I am all the time sponging in words not his, sounds not graced. One cannot love God and the machine, the cybersphere, the noise of the mind, which very quickly blocks out the still small.